very vivid memory of my middle school teacher. She was teaching us and randomly she just throws it in. 9/11 was an inside job. Anything related to the World Trade Center, they sold all their stocks a couple days before. He was my friend in this video. He's an actor. The Netflix producers are about to contact you. You know Luke Belmar, how I was telling you about him?
Yeah.
He actually hit me up.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the SG podcast, where we are honorable individuals who aren't afraid to stand up. Today I have a very wonderful guest with us, Fardeen Ibad. How are you?
How are you? Pleasure to be here.
Likewise, I like seeing you here.
Beautiful setup, man, I gotta say.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. But let's get right into it. You started an Instagram page, fairly successful. I think around 70,000 followers.
70, 75 now.
Okay, amazing. It's called Chronic Reality.
Yes.
Why that name? What's the significance in Chronic Reality?
Yeah, so the surface level obviously is chronic reality. We live in a messed up world. There's a lot of corruption, a lot of scandals going on. But if you go a little bit deeper into it, I gave it some thought. So there was an ancient Greek figure, right, in ancient Greece. His name was Kronos. So that's where chronic comes from. And they associated him with knowledge, like lost knowledge specifically. And they also associated him with Saturn.
Yeah.
And so if you look at the logo as well, it's a little dot with the ring around it. So that's supposed to represent Saturn. So that's
the main definition of it. So you are in the niche of conspiracy theories. I know you don't like to call it theories, but we'll stick with conspiracies. What got you into that niche? Why that niche?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Ever since I was a kid,
Yeah.
I was very interested in watching these documentaries about what's going on in the world, all this government corruption and stuff like that. And I have a very vivid memory of my middle school teacher in grade 7. She was teaching us and randomly she just throws it in. 9/11 was an inside job. And that really stuck with me. I went home, I typed in 9/11 inside job. I started watching these documentaries and I just started thinking, how is no one else questioning this? How is it only my middle school teacher? I've never heard this before.
Yeah.
There's so much evidence to be seen here. There's so many coincidences that they call them. But everyone just believes the mainstream narrative.
So you are saying from middle school is kind of when it triggered you to like, okay, there's a deeper meaning to stuff like this. What we see is just a facade.
Exactly, yeah.
So before starting your Instagram page, like what was that like? Because you can start an Instagram page or social media page about anything, right? It could have been maybe more politics. What route or what guided you to choose this route specifically, conspiracies?
Yeah, so obviously I was always interested in conspiracies.
Yeah.
And I always used to try to tell my friends about them. Hey, look at this 9/11 conspiracy. Look how JFK got assassinated.
Yeah.
Look what happened here, there. And one day I was showing my friend a video from this guy named Luke Belmar.
Luke Belmar?
Luke Belmar. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And I was showing him this video. Luke Belmar was talking about BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, and how they're the majority shareholders in most of the corporations in America.
Yeah.
And how they own everything. And it started really clicking for my friend. And this is a friend I've been trying to tell this stuff to for over a year now.
Yeah.
And he's like locked into this YouTube video. He's really believing this stuff. So I went home and I was just thinking to myself, very deep in my thoughts, if this guy on YouTube, Luke Belmar, shout out to him, by the way, great guy.
Wait, sorry to cut you off, but Luke Belmar, we're talking about the one who did the vlog with Tate, the Tate brothers and so on and so forth. Yeah. I think he was also in Pancake Swap, I think, for crypto, something like that. Okay, cool.
Great investor, yeah. He made his come up on Bitcoin, I think, and the crypto game.
I believe. I don't know if it was Bitcoin. I think it was Pancake Swap, the exchange. Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah.
So that's what clicked you, like, okay, if this guy can do it, why can't I, kind of thing?
Yeah.
Or maybe tell your perspective of it.
Exactly. So I was just thinking, like, this guy, he convinced my friend over a YouTube video because he was showing articles, he was showing information. And I just thought, hey, maybe I could do that too. And that's just how I started.
And that's just how you started. Okay, so based off all your experience, like I would like to say that you are an experienced person in conspiracies and conspiracy theories, you can call it, for the rest of the people in the world. So what is your definition of what is your definition of a conspiracy theorist?
Great question. Yeah. Nowadays, it's so stigmatized to be a conspiracy theorist. You have a tinfoil hat. You're called crazy. There was actually a doctor that last year did a study, and he deems that conspiracy theorists have psychological disorders. So now they're trying to associate it with mental illnesses. A definition of a conspiracy theorist to me is just someone who questions the mainstream narrative, someone who doesn't believe everything that the news tells them, that the government tells them.
Yeah, so they want to make them crazy. But if they're giving them if they're claiming that they're mentally ill, then that should give them more rights, right?
Yeah, good one.
But so it's basically someone who is looking for the truth in a more simplified manner.
Exactly. Someone who doesn't believe one story. They look into every aspect of it and they try to find the truth. Okay. So let's take one step back. I want to know your journey of starting your page. What was like, okay, I know it's the Luke Belmar video you showed your friend, but like, was it like the next day you started, or was it like, okay, you still like, okay, maybe this is not something I'm really up towards. I don't want to put my face out there. I don't want my identity out there. So what was that like, that change? Like, you know what? This is it. I'm doing it. To be honest, man, I went home that day. I made the logo. I thought of the name.
Yeah.
I'm just the type of guy, I need to do it right away.
Yeah.
My brain doesn't rest.
Yeah.
So I went and I started learning how to edit, started learning how to write scripts, and just got straight into it.
No questions. Just boom. So what was that journey like though? Like obviously in life, there's not just ups. There's always ups and downs. And I feel like with social media, everyone just posts their ups, and people then they want like all the good stuff that's going on in their life, but they don't know what they had to, the shallow end of it. Like they don't know those stories. You just see this and they want this. And because they don't have that, they fall into like depression and all that BS.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what were some of your challenges? What was the shallow end? Like, damn, like.
Yeah. So honestly, like I would spend 4 to 6 hours a day making a video, thinking of the topic, doing the research into it, writing the script, editing the video, and it would get like 16 views. And that would just demoralize me so much. Like I just put so much time into it. Only 16 people want to watch this.
Yeah.
And I kept telling myself, if Luke Belmar can do it, if all these other guys can do it, then I can do it. So I just stayed consistent. And
was there like a part, like maybe in between, like where you lost motivation completely, or
so many times?
Yeah.
The most recent time where I lost motivation, and this has never happened after that, because I'm going to tell you what happened. So, you know Luke Belmar, how I was telling you about him?
Yeah.
He actually hit me up when
Get
I
out
was
of here.
around 22,000 followers.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, man, I really like your content. And he followed me. And
No way.
That was like the moment for me where I was like, hey, like, this is a possibility. Like, I could do this. The guy who got me into it is hitting me up.
Yeah.
So that's when I started getting super consistent, making a video every single day.
It's kind of like you can't let him down now.
Exactly. Yeah.
He hit you up. That's a big thing. Congratulations. That's sick. So he hit you up, and now do you post like once a day? I'm assuming like, so one reel a day and one regular post, or what's kind of your posting?
Well, it depends on the day, but usually one reel a day.
Yeah.
And 2 to 3 regular posts on a good day.
On a good day. And is Instagram your only platform that you're using, or you're on?
No, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, X, and YouTube.
Okay.
But the thing is with TikTok, it's a funny story. When my first video started blowing up, it was of the dictator.
Okay.
You know the movie
Yeah.
And he was talking about if America was a dictatorship. I'm sure you know that.
You're Jewish. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That guy.
Yeah, that guy. And so I got that video got to like 700,000 views on TikTok, and as soon as it hit 700,000, TikTok sends me a message: your video is no longer eligible for the For You page. I'm just sitting there thinking, wow, that was quick. They shut me down that fast.
Yeah.
After that, TikTok's just been dead. But luckily, Instagram has been pretty good to me.
Instagram's been pretty good. And, well, I mean, obviously X with Elon Musk taking over, that's a big thing. I mean, especially for your niche specifically.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So when did you start X? Like, did you start at the same time you started Instagram, or?
I made the account around the same time, but I wasn't posting on X at all.
Okay.
So I just started posting on X recently, actually. I think like a month and a half ago, I want to say.
Okay, and you started from like 0, or like did you have like a baseline, or was it like?
No, I had like 2 followers.
And what is it at now?
I think 1,600.
And how long?
Like a month and a half.
That's really good.
Yeah, but it's just consistency.
It's
again.
consistency, and I think the most important aspect of it is, we'll get into it, but it's also your your content, it's rich. There's research involved in it, and it's good content, right? It's not just like BS ChatGPT script.
Yeah.
It's research involved. It takes time. But we'll get into that. What I wanted to ask you is, obviously getting on social media and the niche that you're in, there's a lot of hate. I mean, I see it. I don't even have remotely. I think on Savage, we're at 6,700 followers. So I'm assuming with almost 70,000 followers, you get quadruple the hate than I do. So how do you deal with that?
Honestly, man, at first it was really hard because I was never into the game of social media. I was never really an extroverted guy, right? And so I would see these comments and it would be like, oh, you're crazy. What are you talking about? This, that. I don't want to get into the profane ones, but there would be profane ones as well. And at first I was like, damn, it was messing with my brain a little bit.
Yeah.
But as you keep going, you learn that hate is a part of the game.
Yeah.
Right. If I had a cooking page, I would get hate for not garnishing it the right way, or you know what I mean. So you just got to deal with it.
Yeah. There's no way around it. You can't make everyone happy. And I think you also have to look at who's saying it.
Yeah.
Right. Like if it's an idiot who's following 500 people, only has 20 followers, and has their profile picture with a cat.
Yeah.
Like, come on, bro. I'm not taking you seriously, right?
Him in the
But like,
bio.
for example, like how Luke Belmar hit you up and was like, what did he say to you specifically in your DM?
He was like, hey, man, great content. Keep it up. That's all he said.
So that's coming from some, you know what I mean? So you analyze, okay, who's that coming from? This established individual. Of course, like you said, that's what kind of got you back into it and keeping you consistent from then. So now I want to get a little bit more into the content creation aspect.
Yeah.
Now, this is not specific to your niche or chronic reality, but in general, how can someone get started in content creation?
Yeah, it's really easy. Let me tell you that. It's really easy to get started, but it's really hard to keep going.
Yeah.
To get started, pick your niche, learn how to edit, learn how to copyright, and learn how to research. That's all you got to do.
Okay.
And don't be shy.
And don't be shy.
If you do that and you stay consistent and you go in it every day with the mindset that I'm going to make a good video and I want to make people watch the video until the end of the video.
Yeah.
That's what's going to get you. These hashtags, all this stuff, it's not going to help you that much, man.
Yeah.
As soon as I stopped doing the hashtags is when I started growing, because then I started focusing on the actual content.
On providing that rich content.
Exactly.
So if you had to go back into time, when you first probably started, or maybe the first month doing it, what advice would you give yourself?
That's a good one. I think I would tell myself to not let the haters get to me.
Okay.
To not get inconsistent. Don't lose motivation. And to keep the dream going. And don't get scared. Because let me tell you a story, man. So as soon as I posted the 9/11 video, this one of my earlier videos that blew up, this girl messages me and she's like, you used my friend in this video. He's an actor. The Netflix producers are about to contact you. I was like, what?
What are you talking about? Yeah.
Who is this actor? I don't even know what you're talking about. She's like, okay, he's from this movie. I won't say the movie's name. But
was it like sorry to cut you off, but was it like a picture that you used? Was it a clip?
It was a picture.
Okay.
He was on the ground, scared of a terrorist attack in a plane.
Got it.
Right? So I wasn't trying to paint him in a bad light or anything.
You were just using it for...
Yeah, he was a victim.
Yeah.
In the picture. And so she says she's just trying to scare me. Right?
Yeah.
But I didn't know this at the time. I thought, oh my God, my page is getting shut down. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, when you see guys like Tate and guys like Sneeko who lost channels with millions of followers on it, of course, that's what you're going to think, right?
Exactly. So I messaged the actor. I send him a paragraph. I'm like, hey, let's please work something out. He gets back to me.
Yeah.
He's like, no. Basically, long story short, he's like, no. So then I'm contemplating, do I end the page? Do I delete the...
End the page?
Yeah, I was actually contemplating that because I was like, if this is the beginning and this is already happening, what's going to happen in the future?
Yeah.
But then I contacted one of my friends and they told me about the Copyright Act, which you're allowed to use anything basically, as long as you're not using it for monetization purposes.
Okay, got it.
So that was that. I didn't ever reply to him again.
And they haven't followed up or anything like that?
No. So main advice I would give is don't let the haters get to you.
Yeah.
Stay consistent. That's
and
it.
Just stay consistent. Okay. Now, what are some plans for Chronic Reality that you're willing to share? Like, are you moving maybe to more exclusive content? Do you have already exclusive content so the people can know? What are your plans? Are you working on something?
Yeah, I am actually working on something right now.
Yeah.
And I honestly can't wait to get it out to everyone because we've been putting a lot of work into it. I won't tell you what that is.
Yeah.
I want to keep it a little bit of a secret. But I will tell you this. We're releasing our newsletter and a free ebook.
Okay, cool.
Everything's free. So we're going to get that to you guys very soon. It's gonna
We'll definitely repost it so you guys can definitely sign up. It's very good information. If you want to stay up to date on the truth and at the same time be able to depict history, because history is actually where we learn our lessons.
Exactly.
We look at history and then boom, we apply it to the future. It's kind of like when you analyze, even you can just simplify it. Let's look at content.
Yeah.
We're looking at our history in terms of what we've posted already. So you look into your videos, history, and you see, okay, what worked, what didn't work, how did this go, how did that go, and then you apply for the future. Same thing works with the wars. Same thing works with, I don't know, your research on the Federal Reserve. All these things that already happened is how you attack the future.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. But I also think that history is always written by the victors. Whoever wins the war is the one who's teaching the history class. Yeah, we were the heroes. We saved the world.
Of course. There's 3 sides to the story. Side A, side B, and then the truth.
And then the truth. I like that.
Right?
I like that.
So like it goes back to what you're saying, that of course they're going to claim themselves to be the heroes. Why wouldn't they?
Exactly.
Right? They want to maintain that control and whatnot, or the people would go crazy.
Exactly.
Now, where do you see the conspiracy theorist niche going? Because I'll give you an example. I wouldn't say 15, 20 years ago, like the average conspiracy theorist was thought to be a weirdo, a whack job. He's lost. And kind of like what you were saying earlier, that they're crazy. But now I feel like subconsciously everyone's like a conspiracy theorist. Not everyone, but it's definitely growing. I would say 50% of the population is now conspiracy theorists based on what they say, because they're learning the truth through social media and so on and so forth. So do you see that continuing to grow, that specific niche? Do you see maybe the government starting to shut those things down and people starting to get more afraid? Or do you think people are at the point where they don't care and they want to learn the truth?
Personally, I see it growing. I see a lot of people learning the truth. A lot of conspiracies that used to be conspiracy theories are now coming out to be true. The Hunter Biden story, Twitter files, FBI was manipulating Meta and Twitter into censoring a lot
COVID.
All of that. So, but I see 2 scenarios. I see one scenario where the people rise up and they fight against the corruption and they stop following one narrative. They stop giving the government complete control over their lives. But then I see the other scenario too, because I see the way things are playing out. And there's a very likely scenario that we're gonna lose, and they're gonna this would be our last chance. Because if you think about it, when you go to history, every great king, emperor, dictator, they always wanted what?
World dominance.
World domination, exactly.
Yeah. They want to take control. Whatever they've seen, they want to conquer.
Exactly. And now people think, that idea has just disappeared. It hasn't disappeared. It's human nature.
Yeah. Well, especially when you're already at the top, right?
Exactly. And if a group who does control the world gets control of the world now, like they want, it's over. Because look at the technology. Look at artificial intelligence. They can click a button and nuke a whole thing. They have bioweapons. They have so much messed up stuff that they didn't have 100 years ago for control.
Yeah, it's interesting because they definitely want control, but they spin it, right? Like I feel like that's why I can't stand this ideology of democracy, because it's a scam. They tell you one thing. Okay, for example, they tell you free speech.
Yeah.
But it's not really free speech. If you go against their ideologies and their concepts, it's not free speech.
It's not free speech.
You get shut down.
Exactly.
Whereas, for example, you go to UAE, they tell you this is how it is.
Right.
Don't mess around. Be a law-abiding citizen. We give, precedence to our, Emiratis, right? Like, they get the best, we can kind of say, the best bet. You know what I mean? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, they get the best rules and regulations for them compared to, an expatriate, an outsider.
Yeah.
but they tell you how it is, so you know what to expect. They don't lie to your faces. I feel like in North America, these Western countries, they lie. They lie to your face. They tell you this is how it is, and there's just so much deception, and it's just a lie. And I think people are just getting tired of it.
I think people are.
Yeah.
When all of the news channels are mysteriously having the same script during COVID, like, come on.
Yeah. Well, there's just that one clip I think everyone's seen where it's all like 50 news channels talking about the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting. Now, I want to get more on a personal level with you in terms of what is your favorite conspiracy ever?
Ever.
Easy.
9/11.
9/11.
9/11.
Why?
Well, there's so much evidence for it. There's so many coincidences, like I said. And I'll give you an example. The FAA took over an hour to respond to the terrorist attacks. And usually they respond in 10 minutes.
Well, you know what's interesting?
Yeah.
Is when so-called Hamas infiltrated Israel recently. This is why you need to look at history, because history tells you when it's bogus in the present time. When Hamas infiltrated Israel, it took them 6 hours to get the responding units and police and whatever the case was out there. That doesn't make any sense. You're talking about the most synchronized and most advanced agency. Like, Israel has their defense mechanisms crazy.
Mossad is amazing, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the best agencies in the world.
It is, yeah.
How does that get messed up? But back to 9/11, similar thought process. You're talking about America here, first world country, especially during that time. Their world dominance was crazy.
Exactly, yeah.
And it took, you said, over an hour?
Over an hour. So same thing over there.
Mm-hmm.
Funny thing is that most people don't realize is Hamas is funded by the same people they're fighting.
That's good, yeah.
You know?
Of course. Well, didn't they do that? America do that in World War II? They funded both sides of the...
Yeah. There's been certain families, I want to say, but they're banking families that have funded both sides of wars for a very long time. So even back in like the revolutions, they would fund both sides of the revolutions to destabilize the economy and be able to take all of the gold and money, and because everyone's messed up, everyone's in chaos, interest rates are going up. You know, people who got loans before, now their loans are skyrocketing.
Yeah.
I think in ancient Rome, the banking families that moved in there after 100 years, they started charging people 50% interest on their loans.
Oh my God.
And this was during times of like a depression, like they couldn't eat bread, you know.
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. They claim to care for the people, but it seems like they give more precedence over immigrants. It's kind of vice versa to the UAE, right? The immigrants are getting away with more stuff than the actual people from that country. So you said 9/11 is your favorite conspiracy.
100%.
Is there anything that's like, because I feel like 50% of the population kind of thinks that 9/11 was an inside job.
So many people.
Yeah. So what is something that's like that 50%, maybe only like 10% would know?
I think a lot of it is out there. If I had to think off the top of my head, I don't know if this is common knowledge. The CIA, a lot of the attackers were CIA agents.
Really?
Osama bin Laden was an FBI. He was associated with the FBI for a very long time.
Yeah.
But I think that's common knowledge. I think maybe something that isn't common knowledge is George W. Bush's friends. So the man who was president at that time.
Yep.
They all sold their stocks in any airline companies.
Of course.
Anything related to the World Trade Center, they sold all their stocks a couple days before.
Is it coincidence?
Coincidence.
Clearly.
So many.
Clearly they did it by accident. They just thought, they got some information in terms of, what to move their money into instead, and it's just by coincidence.
Honestly, I think these conspiracy theorists are crazy.
Yeah,
it's a
me
coincidence
too.
They made billions of dollars.
The psychopaths. We don't like conspiracy theory.
Yeah, screw those guys. Larry Silverstein, he made $4 billion off the insurance that he insured a couple months before for
really?
Terrorist attacks specifically.
Oh, he just had a really good broker, really good insurance agent, protecting him in all realms.
Yeah.
I think COVID was also a big awakening for the average person.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the jabs and the vaccines? And kind of just give me a brief overview on it. What I would, let me change that. I'm going to rephrase that. Like I said, it's like the awakening. It's kind of like 9/11. It's more common. Certain things are more common knowledge. Yeah. What is something that you think is hidden that the people need to be aware about?
Okay, so I'll give you one example. When COVID came out initially, a lot of doctors were speaking out about how the mRNA genes, the mRNA can affect the human genome and change it. And those people were just called anti-vaxxer doctors.
Yeah.
And just completely villainized.
So you're saying the vaccines were the gene changing?
Yeah. And so now, I think a month ago or 2 months ago.
But I think they announced that.
They announced what?
That the vaccines had mRNA or
whatever. They did. But anyone who said it would change your genes, it would change your DNA as a human into something else was a completely crazy person. Now, 2 months ago, I think, a research article came out that said the Pfizer vaccine has contaminated DNA in it. And so the CDC and the WHO, they allow a certain amount of contaminated DNA within vaccines or within any drug.
Yeah.
Pfizer exceeded that by 500x. So now what's happening is, according to this medical journal, I'm not a doctor, but I know how to read.
Yeah.
So this is based off what I read.
Yeah.
Now what's happening is this contaminated DNA is in nanolipid particles, which are just like tiny lipid nanoparticles, which are tiny particles within the vaccine.
Got it.
That is now going into your cells and causing your cells to be contaminated to the degree that 500x. And so a lot of people are now experiencing cancer symptoms and a lot of messed up stuff.
Blood clots, obviously.
Blood clots, yeah.
All for a virus that has, I think, 1% or 2% killed. I think at the height of it, before the vaccines, it was 2%. And then it dropped down to like 1% after the vaccine. So,
yeah, it had a really, really high.
Yeah. Oh.
Coincidence,
indeed. What are your thoughts on the Federal Reserves?
Oh, Federal Reserve. So most people think that it's owned by the government.
Yeah.
According to my research, it's not. According to my research, it's controlled by majority shareholders, and this is hidden. They hide it in a very technical way where they put it in the legislation. So most people, they're not going to go through and read this complicated text and try to understand what it is.
Yeah.
And most people just accept it. Oh, they print our money, okay. But so in 1913, President Woodrow Wilson basically allowed these banking families and this banking cartel, I like to call it.
Yeah, I like that.
They allowed them to take control of the Federal Reserve, which now allowed them to control interest rates, control inflation, and control the money supply because they print the money.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's just...
So the government, correct me if I'm wrong, but the government basically takes a loan from the Federal Reserve.
Exactly.
So the government is in debt to the Federal Reserve.
Exactly.
Which is a private institution.
Exactly.
That is ran by, again...
the banking cartel.
The banking cartel, which are... Who is the banking cartel?
Well, it's a group of very influential families, according to my research. People like to say, like, I'm crazy. And
the same families that funded both sides of World War II?
Yeah.
Interesting. Coincidence. By chance.
You guys are crazy.
You guys are crazy. We're not crazy. You guys are crazy. So, let's go into a little bit more current things.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on P. Diddy?
Oh, P. Diddy.
Yeah.
Epstein 2.0. Everyone's talking about how he is a really messed up guy. I think one of his producers actually came out as well and said that he was at a party and P. Diddy invited over a bunch of girls and forced his associates that he was trying to do business with to have sex with these young girls after filling them all up with alcohol and drugs. And he had hidden cameras all over the house. And then once he got that on tape, now he went up to them, hey, you got to listen to what I do.
Sign the deal. Yeah.
Sign the deal.
I like to think that the music industry and Hollywood movies, TV shows is all the tools they use to indoctrinate the people.
100%.
And then you got to ask yourself why and who are they targeting. I think right now we're looking at a attack on military aged men. And why? Well, because they are the ones who can stand up and cause a revolution. So they're trying to indoctrinate them. And it's interesting because while they do that, people are waking up.
Mm-hmm.
So what is their next move? What do you think their next move is?
Ooh, I've never been asked that before. It's a really good question. What is their next move? I think if I was the person in charge of controlling the whole world and a lot of people are waking up and getting to know my real plans, I would completely stop the censorship and I would let the whole world go into chaos. And then I would set up an organization that comes and is the savior to all this chaos.
So the hero narrative can be replenished.
Exactly. They create a problem, they incite a reaction, and then they're the ones who created the problem, but they're the ones who offer the solution.
It's interesting because you can look at Israel and Palestine.
Yeah.
They caused the problem.
Exactly.
And now obviously it was a reaction from the Palestinians. And now they're providing a solution. We're just going to take out Hamas and protect the world. Protect all Jews, even though our political movement, Zionism, is completely different to what Jews believe in. But yeah,
we're going to protect Jews. And even though we have the most advanced military and the most advanced tech,
we're just going to flatten all of... Yeah, why not?
Yeah, look at these savages over there. They don't deserve to live.
They're animals, right? Yeah. It's interesting. Last question for you.
Okay.
Any conspiracy.
Okay.
Any niche, anything you want to talk about. But what I want you to do is give me another piece of information that no one knows. And when you found out was just like, oh my God, the entire world needs to know this. If the entire world knew this piece of information, their minds would change.
Okay. Here's a really interesting one.
Yeah.
Hitler. So apparently I was reading a couple of books and I cross-checked it with what the books were referencing to. Mm-hmm. It was a newspaper and it was Hitler's cousin or Hitler's brother or something like that. Mm-hmm. But basically the allegation was that Hitler's grandmother was a servant at the Rothschild estate and one of the Rothschilds got her pregnant. So that makes Hitler a Jew. Not only a Jew, but one of the top Jews. And you know what's funny too is while he was murdering all of the other Jews, the Rothschilds went pretty much unscathed. Like, yeah, they got their paintings stolen and their bank.
But no one died.
No one died. No one got hurt.
It's interesting. Well, did they want to do that to create a Jewish state?
I think so. I think the purpose of World War II was to
create.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because after World War II, what's fascinating to me is no one else wanted to take them in. Mm. Why didn't Britain take them in? Why didn't America take them in? It just happened to be the Palestinians, even though those Jews are not even from there. Did you know in Israel it's actually illegal to do a DNA test? It's the only country on earth that to do a DNA test. And why? I wonder why. Maybe because they're not from there.
It's a crazy idea.
Yeah, you're crazy for even thinking that.
But so the Rothschild, this is a crazy too, because I was just talking about the Rothschilds and you said this. The Rothschild family was directly involved in creating the state of Israel. They're the ones who wrote to the king, and you can search this letter up. He wrote a letter to the king, basically urging the king to move the Jews to Palestine, which is now Israel.
Yeah.
And this was supported by the U.S.,
of course,
supported by Britain, and they got what they want at the end of the day.
Now we just have to see what the future has in store.
Exactly.
But like we said, you got to look at history to look at the present time and then the future.
Exactly. Do you think World War II was specifically set up for the state of Israel to be created?
It's an interesting question. I think so.
Yeah? It makes sense.
It makes sense. Well, look where it's going. And if there's such a huge Israeli lobbying in the U.S., which we all know. There's half their senates are Israeli. The music industry is Israeli. Hollywood, Israeli. They run the banks. Anything related to doing wrong in the world is them, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Anything that's, and it's not Jews, because Jews are actually, shout out to Mr. Rabbi David Feldman. It's not Jews, but it's this idea of Zionism in Israel. And so the lobbying is there in the U.S., and they have control the entire time. And it was just bound, it just took time to happen. They did it on purpose. And when they run now the state, and you look at it, it's like, okay, where are these, like we were talking about all this propaganda and how they're going after military age men through them. They're using tools like music, Hollywood,
Right.
so on and so forth. But if that is controlled by Israelis and Jews, well, not Jews, but Zionists,
Yeah.
and the banks are controlled by Zionists, and all three of those things are being used to mess up the average person, you tell me.
Yeah. I mean, the evidence points towards that.
But again, we're just crazy for thinking
We're
that,
crazy.
right? We're not conspiracy theorists. What once no,
No,
that's just BS. There's no way. There's no way.
Absolutely no way.
Even though all the arrows are pointing that way, it's got to be that way.
It's got to be that way.
Fardeen Ibad, it was a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course.